Thanks. Tell me if it's not laggy. Am I lagging? I'm doing that on purpose. Is it smooth? Let me just start it off. Like, I'm from North Jersey originally. I moved down to Jersey Shore, and it's like a culture shock to me. It's a whole different world. And in North Jersey, then I realized after a while being at the Jersey Shore, they considered me liberal. But whenever I talk to people and my friends and family from North Jersey, they considered me conservative. You know, but it sort of made sense because I was Native American. I'm very aggressive, and I was very imperialistic minded. But I'm very social, liberal, not economic, but like when you deal with other races and people, whatever. Because obviously I'm dark. I'm sort of social liberal, so I lean that way. But it makes sense if you're me. To other people, it would be like, if you saw some white dude or whatever, why are they very imperialistic? Yet social usually doesn't really go hand in hand because you like all these different people. Why do you want to go to war with them? But for a Native American who's always aggressive, it makes sense. So I want to start it off like that. So I'm very unique in that aspect. And I think the Navajo in general are also like that. They're very a warrior society, Apache, Comanche, and sort of a lot of Native Americans, Lakota, the Sioux, Mohawks, they joined at rates in the military higher in the 90 percentile than the rest of the population. Not just slightly harder, look at that, but it's like in the 90 percentile. So you got to understand that dynamic, especially being in Jersey. You don't really see too many Native Americans, but anybody who's Native American looks at their history is just like, that's just a natural absorption, and it makes sense to you. But anyway, I just wanted to get that, so clarify that about because it's a little bit unusual, I think, because a lot of people I know are very dovish, and me, I'm more Malcolm X-ish, when I interpersonally when we have to deal with other people because simple brutality, unfortunately, is very effective, and sometimes you got to meet that with force or whatever externally. Um, it's just how it is. War was here before we were born. It's here now, and it's going to be here after we die. So we just have to be involved into it. We can't be, had our head up in the clouds and be like, "Oh, war is never going to be with us." It's going to be world peace. We could want world peace. We could push for world peace, but the fact is, we have to deal with the world is now. So it's just how it is. So we got to protect who we are for our security. And so when American empire moves in, protecting our sovereignty towards an empire, it's sort of like this range. It's not this definitive thing. And a lot of people say we're an empire already, and we are. But all intents and purposes, we are. And that shouldn't be the case because that means we outright take wealth and we, give it to ourselves or whatever at the expense of others, but that expense of others is really causing us. And that's what we don't want. What we want is to extend our influence and our power where it benefits them and it benefits us. And that's protecting our sovereignty. So that's a mentality we want to have. And we want to get to the point that we utilize everybody within our nation. We want this systemic racism. So when we exert our power, exert our influence to smaller countries, it will seem like we're an empire, but we're just exerting our influence to protect ourselves. Well, we're actually helping them out. And that, in effect, is making them a strong economy, a stronger nation, where we don't have to waste men, treasure, and all time and effort on protecting it, defending it, or whatever. So that's what I was trying to get at. But before, that's basically in a nutshell. And I'll probably add on a little bit to it. But I wanted to actually talk about what's happening at the Capitol with all that crazy shit. My personal belief, because I have a little bit background in American studies and studying this type of thing. This probably just a little bit enough to cause a lot of damage. No, I'm just kidding. But my aspect of knowing about American architecture, what I was getting at, is that I think it's time for the Capitol building to be not only renovated, but to be built up and under whatever. It's been like that for the last 150 years. What better now than excuse to make it even more beautiful, to build it out, more room, more space, build it more secure. And instead of like gutting the whole thing out and making all these security things, which needs to be done, but at the same time, not just doing that, might as well build out with the neoclassical Baroque architecture that's there, And so they have more space and, just to do their business with. And so with the additional to all those safety measures, they're going to have to be put in place. And of course, renovate it to buy time and to actually protect them. And the underground structure, they should just constantly just always rethink about making that redundancy below that. And what I was getting at before with protecting, the Senate, how like that hydraulic barriers that pop up? I think they should sacrifice some of that sidewalk. And then in times of crisis, that they could just lift it up and that could act as a double thing, for cars and for people. So if there's a big ass protest, boom, put it up there. That'll buy them some time to get into an inner security, whatever will be another set of barriers or whatever. So you got the outer and the inner, because you saw those little temporary barriers that the police were holding. I'm like, that shit ain't gonna hold no one. It's like someone could just jump over that, Just hold up 1 second. I climb faster fences in a second getting away from police, I mean, come on. Ain't gonna do nothing. So that's what we gotta do. Sacrifice some sidewalk and just have that thing just raise up. And then you would have to have some kind of redundancy at the doors, because you don't want it. Some of the woodworking and fixtures and everything is like hundreds of years old. You want to fuck with it, but you could get where you could have a bit more secure and make sure the flow of people could be constricted where you have bottlenecks, and that'll buy you more time. And all these layers are there to slow down, hopefully stop, but you got to count it on slowing it down, because you saw that each one would slow down and buying them enough time, whatever. And even when you get inside, buying enough time. And then for the Capitol security, I mean, you got to look at it like this. We think, well, if we're infiltrated, we can't function. The security can't function if it's infiltrated. But honestly, we're in the midst of an insurrection and we're functioning. So a security service can function even if it's penetrated by any kind of internal threat or whatever, So it's possible. So I know it's difficult and it's hard to, we're like, oh man, what happens if, it'd be this catastrophic thing. It will deteriorate its ability to function, whatever, but it will still carry out its main function. And we already resolved that by having checks and balances, by having, our Senate, by having the president, by having the Supreme Court. There's checks and balances, everything balances out each other. Boom, that's how you have to make the Capitol security. I'm not saying completely compartmentalize every section of it or whatever, but having overlapping responsibilities. So if one part gets compromised, you still have another part that's compartmentalized that could overlap the responsibilities to the other. They could also handle it, And then within that service, it's compartmentalized, So there is not any one part does not have complete control, so not one entity can bring it all down. You know what I'm talking about? The other parts of the whole will keep raising it up. So if like 70% of it collapses or whatever, you still have that core group or whatever that could carry it out. And that's like a doomsday scenario, but that's what you want to have, So it is definitely possible. So you just got to make sure if everything turns to crap, I'm saying? There's a couple people who've just been like, whoop, just put the breakers on that. This, and this can analyze the situation or whatever and be like, this is what we need to do. we got this, we could handle it, and we'll preserve the continuity of government, so that could be done. That's what I wanted to get out to begin with or whatever, but since I already stated what I already wanted to state to begin with, let me see if I missed anything or whatever. Oh yeah, so all these people saying that we want an empire or whatever, it makes no sense to me because we're already an empire or whatever. You literally just want to make a king, I'm talking about. That's what you want, I'm saying. Our forefathers already figured out how to give the most power we need to give to one person and why he needs that much power and how that needs to be balanced out with the legislative body to debate on that, put all these minds together, representative of all the population, of all their resources together to come up with a decision. You know what I'm talking about? So you have that benefit of that intellectual ability with the unilaterally ability but constrained of a president, and then if they fuck that up, you got a Supreme Court that could override all of that through even more debate, more discussion, because that's a practical matter. Because we decide what we're going to do, we actually do it, and if that fucks it up in practice, the Supreme Court comes in and be like, nah, that's not working, because it looks good on paper, but it doesn't work, you know what I'm saying? And this basically says, no, this is how the law needs to be. So we already have the perfect system how to extend our influence, whatever, So I don't really see why you're going to give power to one person, because the fact of the matter, if you look at history, back in even to antiquity, when you do that democratic body that was able to make a very strong government or secure land, most of the time it collapsed or it grew very exponentially quickly, whatever, and then collapsed. Look at Alexander the Great, quickly expanded in his lifetime. Then it disintegrated. It literally disintegrated and became feudal states. And that's Caesar. Same thing. This time and time again. That's all you keep seeing. These tyrants or whatever, and that's from Greek. From the Hellenistic period, but that's the problem. Because the reason why this happens is because the bureaucracy that created the empire gradually deteriorates by the emperor himself, or whatever, right? Because it still limps along, whatever, right? But you can never guarantee the intellect and ability and motivation for the good of the people on who's leading it. And we discovered how to get the best leader, and that's through elections. It's not through, inheriting it. You know what I'm talking about? So they're not going to make the best decisions. They'll bullshit like you, be like, oh, I'm for you, I'm for that group, or whatever, but it's always for that personal agenda. So that's why when they say, oh, we wanted an empire, we wanted a super strong country, whatever, you don't want strength. You want to destroy our country. And it will be destroyed. We already have what we need to have. And the thing about it is we can make this country more powerful if we get rid of systemic racism. Because we're not using our full population. We're not using a lot of white, a lot of lower class white people. They're just pushed out to the side. They're no good, so-called white trash or whatever. We're not using a lot of minorities, obviously, black, Latino. And all that people have this intellectual resource that if we give them the ability to flourish and seek their passions or whatever, it will create a lot of wealth and a lot of power that we could extend our influence. And the thing about it is, if only a certain 20% of our populace is carrying, our standard of living for the other 80%, and we're still projecting power, oh my God, look at that, but if we had that other 80% be able to contribute just as much as that other 20%, imagine what we could do, what kind of influence we could create. And so just protecting our sovereignty will look like even more of an empire, I'm talking about to other countries, whatever. So it just seems so crazy to me what these people are doing. Because what they really want is to create a system of slavery and worse, I'm talking about actually extenuation of people, whatever, I'm talking about. And here I am as a native, I'm talking about. I have nowhere to go. I can't go to fucking Canada or France or Mexico or whatever, I'm saying. I'm stuck with right here. This is my people, I'm talking about. Hell, most Mexicans are lighter skinned than me, I'm saying. I got so much goddamn native blood Yeah, I'm considered full-blooded. You know what I'm talking about? So of course I'm gonna find tooth and nail. I'm from a warrior society, so I'm gonna tell you what's up. I'm probably more. I did. I'll do more for this country. I'll fight more for this country, and more than 99% of those fucking bullshit people that want an empire. You know what I'm talking about? I'm telling you, man, it's just crazy that these people, you know, talk about what they really want. They really, what they want, I understand it, but that's not what's going to happen because they're uneducated and they're dumb, you know what I'm talking about? And unless, and I'm telling you, you're not going to make this country into a bunch of having a bunch of slaves, esclavo. Telling you, man. So that's, I mean, it's just, and God knows whatever the fuck else, you know, because there's some monstrous shit that's going to come out in the next couple of years. What happened with that administration? But if you really want to have a strong country, I'm telling you right now, quantify competition amongst the populace so everybody ability and skill could be measured more appropriately, and that way we know who's good at what area and to what level, and so talent rises instead of nepotism and all this other bullshit which brings down our society and biases and racism. Because if you're like, oh well, I get together all together and be like, oh, this person looks good, oh, this person is talented, oh, this person is whatever, a genius in everything, you know what I'm talking about, instead of actual skill, it deteriorates our country. But if we could quantify that skill, that talent, and everything else, then the effective and efficiency of who we are as a country increases. So that's how we beat it, and holding true to that, and having, that's why we have ethics and holding true to those policies and everything. But unfortunately, we have a system where the bureaucracy, we tweak the bureaucracy, where we stack the paperwork for white people and for Asians or whatever to make them look smarter, whatever, instead of actually being smarter. And that's what brings us down, because we keep having this corruption that brings us down, because it's based on racism. It's based on who you know. It's based on, you know, who you married to, whatever, or the nepotism, whatever, and all that other shit. It needs to be based on ability and skill. You know what I'm talking about? So it's just how it is. You know, I mean, the thing is just like we have. I'm not going to get into social intelligence and not. You know what I'm talking about? This is stuff that's beyond, that should not be quantified as social intelligence. It should be quantified as making our capitalist system more defined, more organized, so we could organize competition, which is chaos. You know, organize the chaos of capitalism more effectively. And if we could do that, competition that's more easily measured, and we hold true to that, more of our population increases, our standard living increases, or whatever, and we reject our wealth, reject our influence, and our treasure, our national income will increase. And what